Hello, welcome back to my channel. So Rachel and Doug, oh my gosh, it was pretty juicy with them in the season finale last night. So Rachel found out Doug was cheating on her. She got mad. She threw her ring out in the front yard and lost it and was looking for it. Thank God she found it. But producers showed up and asked her what was going on, and she found out that Doug had been cheating on her this whole time. And honestly, I'm not surprised. After he proposed to her, got on one knee, and then got back in the car after he proposed to her and was giggling on the phone that she bought for him and refused to tell her what he was laughing about. I knew that he was up to some snake stuff right then and there, that he was probably texting another girl. So Doug was a little sneaky snake, and he sat there and lied to Rachel, said he was going over to his friend's house with one of his boys. His friend picked him up, and then all of a sudden Rachel started getting messages on Facebook from some ladies saying Doug's no longer allowed at her house, Doug's cheating on you. Let's just go ahead and look at the screenshots that Rachel received from this lady. So this lady is Gary's wife. Gary is the name of the friend Doug said he was going to go hang out with. So she said, "Hi, I know we don't know each other, but I'm Gary's wife. I feel the need to tell you this. Your husband came to my house earlier tonight with some skank, and I caught them in our bedroom. I don't know who the F she is, but he is no longer welcome at our house." And they also said, "Doug is the biggest dirtball I have ever effing met. If I were you, I would cut his butt off and not give him any more of your love or money. He's not worth it." And they said, "No, he left with her. I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but I know he's married, and what he did tonight in my home is disgusting. If it were me, I would pray to God that someone would tell me that my husband is a cheating dog." So I am very curious if the girl that he cheated on Rachel with that night is the same girl we see in this picture here that they made social media official back in May that they were together. What I have questions about is Rachel filed for divorce back in December. She didn't follow through, and she filed for divorce again in June. In June is probably when she probably found out about her getting cheated on by Doug, but I'm curious why she filed for divorce back in December. So Rachel threw the wedding ring out the yard, and then she's like, you know what? I might as well get some money out of the ring to get back for all this money I wasted on this marriage. So she found the ring, and thank God. And Doug cheated on Rachel with this girl 2 days after he re-proposed to Rachel. And Rachel thought things were on the right track. He was super serious about her because he didn't have to re-propose to her because they're already married. And 2 days after he re-proposed to her, he cheats on her. So Rachel said she really didn't want to believe it. So Doug came home that night that he was with another girl back to Rachel's, and they got in a fight, and she said something that might have cut a little too close to home, and he ended up punching out the cabinets, one cabinet in her kitchen, and he said he punched the cabinet because he was being a good boyfriend and punching the cabinet instead of her face. And that's just Doug's effed up ideology of a relationship. So they're fighting, and Doug's on house arrest with Rachel, so Doug couldn't leave. Rachel didn't feel comfortable sleeping in the same house with Doug because she was just so angry, so she ended up packing up her things and going and staying the night with her mother. And when she came back, she realized Doug had packed up all his stuff, every single thing that she had bought him, and took it with him and moved out, and also took Dougie Jr. with him. And Dougie Jr. took the gaming system that she bought for him, but she considered Dougie Jr. a son, so she really didn't mind. And Rachel said she's struggling, rationalizing, realizing that her whole relationship was pretty much just a joke to Doug. And she really thought that they had a future together, and she really loved him. You know, the problem with people like this is people think, oh, just because I would never do that to somebody, he would never do that to me. But, you know, just because you have a good heart doesn't mean that everyone else out there has one either. Let's just hope that while Dougie Jr. was living with Doug, that Doug didn't turn around and sell Dougie Jr.'s game system, because that honestly wouldn't surprise me either. And Rachel said she never had any idea that she'd be another one of those statistics of those prison pen pal relationships that ended up in disaster, but that ended up being what happened. You know, I do have to give Rachel credit though. She handled everything with class, she kicked him to the curb, and she just handled it like a lady. So Rachel is upset and she starts cleaning the house like a mad woman. She says it's therapeutic, trying to keep her mind off Doug. Her mom shows up and her mom keeps asking her to stop cleaning. She's like, I can't, I'm on a roll. It's therapeutic. And then Rachel starts putting the bologna in the cabinet instead of in the fridge, and her mom was like, okay, bologna doesn't go in the cabinet, you need to stop and take a break. So Rachel finally stopped, took a break, sat down and talked to her mom. Her mom asked her what happened to the cupboards, and Rachel told her Doug punched the cupboard and said that he loved me so much he punched the cupboard instead of my face. And Rachel's mom made a good point. She said Doug showed his true colors, and they're very black, very dark. I think that's a great way to put it. And she said that Doug had everybody fooled. And he really thought he had it made because Rachel never questioned him where he was doing, where he was going, or anything like that. So Doug probably thought he could pull a slick one and have all these hoes and keep Rachel around. And Rachel admitted to her mom she felt dumb because Doug's sister tried to warn her and say he's a dog, he's gonna cheat on you. And even Rachel said in the last episode, not last night's episode, but last week, that she knew she sounded naive when she was trying to tell herself that she was trying to believe that that wasn't true. And I wish I had screenshots of all the tattoos that Doug was showing off, but he had Rachel's name tattooed on him like 4 or 5 times, and even had some saying on his ring finger. I can't remember what exactly it said, but it was like some little joke that him and Rachel had between each other. So Rachel believed, like, hey, he's really serious about me. He got me tattooed all over his body. But even Doug said that if it didn't work out, the tattoo still meant a lot to him. And we know these tattoos don't have a lot of meaning to Doug. I mean, come on, we look at Nicole and she's got loyalty and honesty tatted on her arms, and we know she's far from that. So Doug took Dougie Jr., moved out of Rachel's, and he moved into his sister's backyard. His sister that he went to go visit that had custody of Doug Jr. before Rachel did. Well, he moved into a camper in her backyard, and that's actually the house that got raided when Doug got arrested. And Rachel told her mom and producer she would be open to adopting Dougie Jr. even though her and Doug were no longer together. Then somehow production hunted down Doug to get an interview with him and a life update, and they showed this little scene of him riding on the bike on national television on the back with another man looking like Roger from Doug's with his hair blown in the wind. And thank God Doug didn't give Dougie Jr. a man bun like he was trying to a couple episodes ago. So Doug explained to producers while he was in prison, a lot of guys talked about how when they got out, they weren't going to jump into a relationship. They were going to play the field because they were going to try to get everything out of their system. And they had like FOMO, fear of missing out. And Doug said he thought he was ready to get out and be a husband to Rachel and a role model to Dougie, but he said he just wasn't ready for all that. Rachel said she wouldn't take Doug back under any circumstances. She would never date an inmate again. She said, maybe I should date an accountant. They're good with money, they're more put together, less rambunctious. And that's what you need to do, Rachel. There's a lot less drama that comes along with dating an accountant versus dating an inmate. So Doug said he was going to try to stay on the straight and narrow. It looks like he didn't stay on the straight and narrow that long because we finally got to see a picture of Doug's mugshot from when he was arrested about a week ago. And if you haven't been following my videos, then Doug was at his sister's house. He cut off his ankle monitor back in March, so he was absconding from parole. And so they went to his sister's house to look for him because they got a tip that a absconder from parole was staying there and that they're also running a chop shop and selling drugs out of the home. And when they went to raid the house, Doug dipped out on a motorcycle, ended up crashing into a police vehicle and pulling out a firearm. So he's looking at a whole bunch of time, and he looks high as hell. In his mugshot, he looks like he's on some H or something, and he looks like a train wreck. So the best news of the night, though, is after Doug got arrested, Rachel got little Dougie back. And I am just so glad. Rachel is such a good role model for Dougie Jr. She has a son around Dougie Jr.'s age, so that's just the best environment for him to be. He was staying with Doug's sister, well, in the backyard of Doug's sister in a camper with Doug before he got arrested. And that's where their house got raided because they're running a chop shop and selling drugs out of. So he has no business living over with the sister and the family when they're still doing all that crazy stuff and around drugs and all that. But that's it for this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for watching.